Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. First of all, I have to tell you, I am so excited because I now have 50,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I can't even believe I'm saying that. That is pretty unbelievable. And it's very exciting. Now, when I first started my YouTube channel, which I think was 8 years ago, I just dabbled at it. I had no idea it was going to grow into what it has grown into, and all the amazing, wonderful friends I've met through my YouTube channel. I love my whole entire community here on YouTube. I so appreciate each and every one of you for your comments, for watching me, your encouragement, your great ideas that you share with me, and the personal messages. And there have been some wonderful, wonderful friendships. And I'm so grateful and I feel incredibly blessed. And did I mention I'm excited? I'm so excited. So I wanted to do something. I wanted to give back somehow. So how it works with Stampin' Up!, because obviously I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, we can only sell within our own country. So because I'm in Canada, I can't actually do a product giveaway and offer to people outside of Canada as well. And I have a lot of people here from the States, from Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, all around. And I want to be able to offer something that anybody can win no matter where you live in the world. So what I have decided to do is, as I live in Nova Scotia, I'm going to put together a little box of sunshine full of products that are made here in Nova Scotia. And we have some pretty exceptional products. We have amazing chocolates and coffee and soaps, and I could go on and on. We just have great products produced right here in Nova Scotia. So I am going to put together a fun, beautiful box full of these products made right here, and I'm going to throw in some handmade stamped items that I've created for you as well. So all you have to do is just leave a comment, and I will, in my next video, share who the winner is. So I will just go through and randomly pick somebody, and I am very excited to give away this box of love, because that's what this is. This is a box of love for each and every one of you. Now let's get on to today's card. All right, the cards I'm going to be featuring in today's video are using the Dove of Hope stamp set and the coordinating dies. And there are 10 cards that I'm going to be demonstrating for you. So because there are so many cards, I've got everything pre-cut and prepared, and I have a tutorial with all of the measurements and the supplies and photos, and that is something I'm going to give to all of you for free. So the PDF tutorial is listed in the description below, so you will see the link for that. Just go ahead and click on that and you will have everything you need to complete these cards. Now, some of them are super easy, some of them are stepped up a little bit, so I may fast forward here and there throughout the video, but the cards are beautiful. And again, think about the layouts I'm using and how you can use them with other stamp sets too. But with Christmas less than a month away, if you're still looking for Christmas cards, these are beautiful designs, and this is such a gorgeous bundle. So I'm happy to share these cards with you. So I am using Whisper White and Mossy Metal, and the only ink pad for this card is Mossy Metal. So I'm going to take my Whisper White, and again, all the measurements are in the PDF tutorial. And the first thing I'm going to do is get my stamp. I'm going to use this stamp right here. I'm going to turn my cardstock this way, ink up this stamp, and I'm simply going to stamp from, this is going to be the top. So I'm stamping it in different directions, tilting it just a little bit, and then right here as well. So that is going to be the top, and then this is going to simply get glued onto the Mossy Meadow layer. And now I'm coming in with the Peace on Earth using another piece of Whisper White. I'm stamping that in Mossy Meadow, and then I have my circle from the stitch shaped circle die, so I'm going to go and run that through my die cutting machine. Before I put this on my card, I have some gold twine. So I'm just going to make a bow. This side is already frayed, which I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and just tap the end of this one and do the same thing. And you can see I've got inky fingers, so just ignore my inky fingers. I've been stamping this morning. Okay, that's beautiful. So I'm going to set that aside. And now I have another piece. So what I'm going to do is put that on the back. Put some more seal here. So I'm going to fold this in half. And this is going to go right here, right on the top, because I want it to come down like so. Just stretch those out a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to put this on the front of my card. Grab a couple dimensionals. I have some Whisper White crinkled seam binding, and I want to dye it the same color of cardstock. So I'm taking my Mossy Meadow ink pad, and I'm just going to swipe my ribbon right underneath this to dye it, which is so cool. You can make your ribbon any color you need. Now there are a few different ways you can do this. You can use this with your markers. You can put your ribbon in some water with some re-inkers and just set it aside to dry. You can use your aqua painter, all kinds of different things. So I am going to set that aside to dry a little bit, and I've already got one started here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a bow. Now that I have that part ready, I'm going to take my die and stamp a couple more of these and cut them out. So I'm just going to put these on and run them right through the die cutting machine. Okay, all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim them kind of where the V starts. And I'm going to put one on with glue. And you'll see that I'm actually not quite flush here. That's okay, because see, look at this, it's going to hide that. Perfect. And then I'm going to take a dimensional and put that behind here. And then a little bit of glue on the tip. I'm just going to stagger this right across, right on top, tilting it just a little bit so it goes onto that circle. So to finish the card, I'm taking my shimmery crystal effects, and I'm just going to add just a little bit inside each berry, and this is going to add a really pretty dimension to the card. There's the finished card, and I will go through after I've done all my cards and put my paper on the inside, but I just wanted to show you how quick and simple it is to make that card, and of course have your ribbon to match. Okay, so all the pieces for this card are also cut out. So I have Balmy Blue for the card base. I've got a couple strips, Balmy Blue and Mint Macaron, my Whisper White, and then I use my scallop circle die to cut the Mint Macaron and Misty Moonlight here. And then I have another piece, because this piece of Misty Moonlight I'm going to emboss. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And I'm using my Peace, Love, Joy, and I'm going to emboss this in silver. So I'm going to stamp it kind of over towards the left. And I'm going to take this piece and stamp my dove. And they're both going to get embossed in silver. Now I'm taking my Lovely Labels punch, and I'm going to use this scallopy side here, and I want to cut it by the piece So I'm just going to slide that in, center it. So now it's nice and pretty. I'm going to set that aside, bring this one in, and then take my mint macaron, and I'm going to add a little bit of this ink with my blender pen, and you could use some marker instead, but I'm just adding it to the leaves. And I'm going to cut that out with the coordinating die. So one thing I do want to do is I want to add a bit of gray to the dove's beak. So I'm just taking my smoky slate. I'm just going to add just a little touch. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to stick a dimensional onto my dove and put it right on the circle. And then some seal. And this goes onto my scallop circle. So I'm going to set these pieces aside. Now I'm taking my Whisper White and I'm going to create a pretty background using the stamps. So I'm going to grab the leaves and my mint macaron ink pad. And I'm just going to stamp once and a couple more times without re-inking so that I get the pretty gradual colors, which is going to help fill this in. Now I'm taking my Misty Moonlight and I'm going to do the same thing but with the snowflake. Okay, so I have cleaned my stamp and now I'm going to do the same thing but with Balmy Blue. So this is just pulling in all the colors of the cardstock. I'm going over top some of those leaves too. This is just a nice fun way to create your own background paper. Alrighty, time to put the card together. And then to finish the card, I'm taking one of my large pearls. I'm just going to put it right on that end. And then I have my Champagne Shimmer Mist paint mixed with my rubbing alcohol, which if you watch my videos, you know I love spritzing with this Champagne Shimmer Mist, and it gives it just a gorgeous glimmery look once that dries. It dries really fast. There is card number 2. So nice, so pretty. This next card is so elegant and beautiful, and it's such a simple card to make. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my Whisper White, and my cardstock is the Misty Moonlight. And then I have a piece of our Feels Like Frost Designer Series paper. Don't you guys just love this paper? I know I'm going to want to stock up on some more because this is probably one of my very favorite Designer Series papers ever. Okay, so I've just adhered that to the 1/2 of my Whisper White. Then I have some of this beautiful Snowflake Splendor ribbon. I'm just going to take my tear tape and just overlap it ever so slightly on that Designer Series paper and the Whisper White. Tear it off and fold it behind. And then take off the backing. Then I'm just simply going to position this ribbon right on top of that tear and tape. Trim off the end and fold that right down and secure it in the back. Okay, and then that's going to go onto my Misty Moonlight card base. Now I'm stamping this dove, and I'm going to emboss this beautiful dove with my silver and cut it with the coordinating die. So I have my dove cut. He's ready to go on the card, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment next, again using Misty Moonlight. I'm going to stamp that to the right of my Whisper White cardstock layer. And this is going to put on my card with Stampin' Dimensionals. about here, I like to put the wing kind of where the words are starting to indent a little bit, right over here. So pretty. So bring my ribbon back in and I'm going to make a bow. So I'm just doing the 2 bunny ears where I kind of do a loop here and a loop here and then just fold it over and through that circle. And this is a stiffer ribbon, so you got to play with it a little bit. And if you haven't ordered any of this ribbon yet, you guys, oh my gosh, you need this in your craft stash. It is absolutely stunning. I like to add extra glue dots to my ribbons just to keep them in place where I want them. To finish the card, I am taking my rhinestones. I'm going to put one here. And I like using the rhinestones for this particular card. We have so many pretty embellishments, but the rhinestones I find really pull out the silver so nice. And there is that card finished. Moving on to card number 4. So this time I'm using real red for my card base and a strip of Designer Series paper. This is from the 'Tis the Season package of Designer Series paper. And I have 2 oval die cuts, the stitched ovals from the Whisper White, and then a scrap piece. So this is a fun fold card, and all I'm going to do is take the edge and fold it up towards the crease. Take my bone folder, make sure I really get that crisp crease. So that's the card fold. Okay, so now I've got my real red ink pad and I'm inking up the Peace, Joy, and Love, and I'm gonna stamp it on one of these oval circles right near the bottom, just like so. And on the second oval, which is going to go on the inside of the card, I am stamping "And Hope in Your Heart." And on my scrap piece of Whisper White, I'm going to stamp 3 ornaments. And the ornaments are all going to get cut with the coordinating die. And I'm going to take my blender pen and just pull in the color from that stamping, and then I get a nice soft real red. If you wanted to add a little bit more red, you can just dip your blender pen right into your ink pad and just pull in some more color where you want it. And I like to use the blender pen again because to use my real red marker, it would be a lot darker, stronger ink, whereas the blender pen just makes it a really nice, softer shade. There we go. And then to clean the blender pen, you just go back and forth on your scrap paper until there's no more ink on the tip. So here is the coordinating die. So I'm just going to line it up like so and run it through my machine, and I'll be right back. So here are my ornament die cuts. Now before I put them on the card, I'm bringing in my early espresso ink pad and a Stampin' Sponge, and I'm just going to lightly ink all around the edges, kind of make this card a little bit more vintagey. I'm going to do this to the card base and the strip of Designer Series paper as well. First thing I'm doing is I'm going to add my strip of Designer Series paper, and that is going to go on this edge right here. Just like so. And that's a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim that. Add a little bit more ink. There we go. So I have added some adhesive behind this oval, and I'm just going to put it right in the center. And somehow I also managed to get some ink right here. And I don't want to start over. So what I'm going to do is take my snowflake and my Real Red, ink it up, and I'm going to stamp it off twice on my scrap paper, and then just stamp it right here. And then I think I'm going to do another one here. So I've just added some snowflakes, and you can't tell that those brown marks were there anymore. Now for this oval that's going to go on the front, I'm just going to add adhesive right along the top. And I'm going to close my card, and I'm going to line up this oval with the inside oval. So I'm just lining them up, pushing down, and now that piece lines up perfectly with the inside oval. Okay, so I'm adding a dimensional behind each of these ornaments. I'm going to put the middle one on first. And then the next one, I'm going to stagger it up just a little bit higher. And this one I'm just going to put it right there. Now I'm just going to take my scissors and trim the ends. And my ribbon is going to hide these ends. So I have my Real Red ribbon, and you can see that that is going to hide the ends perfectly. So I'm going to take my glue dots again, and I'm going to put a glue dot right here, which is also holding down that tip. So that's kind of handy dandy. Take another one, do the same thing. So you see that's holding the tops of those ornaments right onto the card. And then I'm taking my ribbon, I'm going to line up the center of that bow onto the center of the ornament, and then just push right down and just kind of fluff up my ribbon. So there is that card, almost done. I need to add a little bit of bling. So you could add rhinestones, you could add pearls. I'm going to use some of these gorgeous gold faceted gems. And I'm going to put one right on the center of each ornament. And I'm going to bring in my clear Wink of Stella and add some of that to the ornaments as well. Super fun, beautiful, quick Christmas card. So we are moving on to card number 5, and this card is probably one of my favorites out of all the cards, and it's such a simple layout, but I love the color combination. So I have a balmy blue card base, my Real Red layer, I have a piece of Whisper White, then I have another piece of balmy blue, and I have run this through the Winter Snow embossing folder. And then I have my die cuts. So I've got my Real Red scalloped oval and my Whisper White oval. So I'm gonna do my stamping first, and then it's just a matter of assembling, which is really fast. So I'm taking my dove, and I'm going to stamp my dove with black StazOn. And the reason I'm using this StazOn is because I'm going to use my water painter to color this. Okay, now I'm bringing in the peace, joy, and love, but I'm only going to use the word joy. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm taking my black marker, and I'm literally just going right on top of the word joy and the little dot on each side. This is called omitting. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp this right over here. And voila, I have just the word joy. I love being able to use my markers on my stamps so that I could omit what I don't want and use what I do want. So you can use those 3 words individually, which is such a neat way to get extra mileage out of your stamps. So now I'm going to pull in my balmy blue, and I'm going to pick up some ink just by tapping it onto my clear block. And now I'm going to grab my water painter. and pick up that ink and just color in my Now I'm going to take my smoky slate and color his beak, and my garden green marker for the leaves. And I know that this is an olive, but I am going to use red to pull in the red of my cardstock and just make that a red berry instead. So that is it for the coloring. I'm going to put that onto my scallop, and then my embossed layer is going to go onto the Whisper White. Now before I put this on the card, I want to add another strip of that beautiful Snowflake Splendor ribbon. So I'm just going to add some more tear and tape right around the front. And then that goes on like so. And I'm going to take my clear Wink of Stella and go over the bird. And then to finish the card, I'm going to pick up some rhinestones and just add a couple to the snowflakes. So I'm just going to put a couple in the center of the snowflakes. Let's see. Do one there. We'll do one there. I'm gonna move this, put it there. And there is that card done. Isn't that pretty? I really love that layout, and I love the colors. So card number 6 uses a Whisper White card base, and this is 11 by 4 1/4 folded in half. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I have a piece of Whisper White that measures 5 1/4 by 4. Now using the same dove I used on the last card, I'm going to stamp it right in the center, and then I'm going to take the piece on earth and I'm going to stamp that with real red. These cards are so much fun to make. Love making my Christmas cards. I'm going to stamp that right below my dove. And now I'm bringing in the ornament, and I'm going to stamp that with the stays on. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to pull all of this together. So I'm going to stamp this up just a little bit. And then I'm going to stamp this one down just a little bit. And this one down a little bit. They're a little bit crooked, so we're going to pretend that there's like a breeze blowing them. And then I'm going to bring in my real red, and instead of using my blender pen like I did on the previous card when I was coloring these, I'm going to use my aqua painter and my real red ink. I'm just going back in because I want to make the tops and the bottoms darker. For my dove, you can stamp these using your Stampin' Blends, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my basic gray ink pad. If I had stamped it with my Memento, I would have just used my Stampin' Blends, but that's okay. So I'm just making sure my water painter is clean, and then I'm just picking up ink, and I'm just going to do a quick color. I'm going to take my smoky slate and do the beak, and old olive for the leaves. And I am going to make this an actual olive, so I'm going to bring in my garden green. Just add a little bit of garden green here. Nice bright green. So you're probably wondering, How is this card going to come together? Well, here's how it all ties in very, very nicely. So I'm taking my old olive ink pad, and you can use a sponge dauber or a sponge, but what I'm going to be using is one of our gorgeous new blending brushes coming out in our January catalog. I'm so excited, and I can't stop feeling it because it's so soft and luxurious, but I am excited to christen this. So I'm just dabbing it right into my ink pad. I'm giving it a little bit of a wiggle. And then what I'm going to do is lightly go around the top and just going in little circles. Look how beautiful that is. Going in the corner. I love it. And when I am done, I will simply rinse this underneath some water and set it aside to dry. And it just puts that ink on effortlessly. And I'm going down around the edges just a little bit. I was so excited when I saw that Stampin' Up! Was bringing these out. And as a demonstrator, we were able to place a pre-order. Well, actually, because I attended our on-stage event, I was able to place an order then. And I am so excited about these. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the bottom, and I'm definitely going to start where I've got my little fingerprint. Now from the dove dies, I have cut out these old olive boughs. And I probably should have used our adhesive sheets when I cut these, but that's all right. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue behind these. That is going to go right across like so, so that it looks like the ornaments are hanging off of that bough. And then I'm going to do the same thing down along the bottom. And I'm going to put this on my card base. I'll just use my glue because I've got it. Now to tie in the red, I have a piece of real red and a piece of cherry cobbler, and I am going to run those through my die cutting machine using this handy dandy die that makes all the berries. So I am going to go ahead and do that and be right back. Okay, so I have all my berries cut. So what I'm going to do is take my glue and just add a little dab of glue right in each circle of this branch. And then I'm just going to alter the berries, real red, cherry cobbler, real red, cherry cobbler. Just add my glue and pick these up with my take your pick tool. I'm going to take a rhinestone and put a rhinestone on the center of each of the ornaments. And there is that card done. Okay, moving on to card number 7. I hope you're enjoying all these fun, beautiful cards. Now, this is another piece of Designer Series paper from our Feels Like Frost collection. So I am going to use this side. Now, my card base for this card is, again, Balmy Blue. And I want this Designer Series paper to also be Balmy Blue. So I'm taking my Balmy Blue ink pad and I am literally swiping it right across, whoops, right across my paper. There we go. And I now have specialty Designer Series paper, the exact same color as my card base. So what I'm doing is I'm actually taking a dry tissue and just wiping on across, because where that silver embossing is on our Designer Series paper, it's going to resist the ink. You can see it's picking up on that. So I'm just wiping that off. Perfect. Now I'm bringing in this gorgeous die to make a dove out of this paper. So bringing in my die cutting machine, I've got my platform plate, my number 2 plate, and then my clear plate. I'm putting this down, and my dove and my wing, and I'm going to just put the second plate on and run that through. Okay, so here is my wing. So pretty. And the body, just poke some of those out. Now I've already taken this die and cut out a piece of Whisper White. So I have a Whisper White wing. And I'm going to put some glue on here and attach this to the white wing. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. And that's going to go right on top of my dove, right like that. Now I do want another wing, forgot about that, so I'm going to take the solid wing this time. This is going to go on just like that. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back wing and just position it. So from this same designer series paper, I'm going to cut it down to 1.5 and trim it up to 5 1/4. Okay, so I have my Whisper White layer. And that goes on right like that. And then my designer series paper layer. And that goes on like so. And then this piece of Whisper White, I have already run this through the Winter Snow embossing folder. And that goes on to this layer. And again, some adhesive. I love this card design. So nice. Okay. So I'm just going to glue on my beautiful dove. I'm just going to tilt him a little bit because I want his whole tail on just like so. You want to be careful that this tip doesn't go past your card base too much, otherwise it's not going to fit in your envelope. Now I have already cut this die from Mint Macaron. So I'm going to tuck this right behind his beak, like so. And from the Wonderful Gems, I'm taking the red gem and just putting that right here, just for another nice pop of color. And what I've done here is, on my small pearls, I've taken my black Stampin' Blend and I've just colored it in so that I have a pearl that I can use for the eye. And then the last thing to do on this card is to stamp the sentiment. So to do that, I'm going to take my Mint Macaron, ink it up, and stamp it right down below. And there's my finished card. So here's the first one I did, and the only difference is I stamped it with the Balmy Blue. Alright you guys, this next card is so elegant and so simple. I just love it. So I am using a Whisper White card layer here, and this measures 5 1/4 by 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this up to the half mark, and I'm going to score that, and then I'm going to move it up 1/8 of an inch and score again. All right, now I'm going to spin it around and I'm going to line it up at the 1 1/4 mark and score. And then I'm going to move it up 1/8 of an inch and score. Now you don't have to be exact with those measurements. You just want to leave a gap. Can you guys see that okay with the light? You just want to leave a gap with a couple of those score marks. And that is just going to make a really nice, pretty spot to do our embossed sentiment. So for that, I'm going to use the Peace, Joy, and Love. So I'm taking our embossing buddy. So I've just inked that with the first mark, and I'm going to stamp it right in the middle of those score lines. And now I'm bringing in my gold embossing powder. Zap that with the heat tool. Do you know that when I very first discovered stamping, I was 14 years old. I'm 50 now, so that's a lot of years ago. I was shown heat embossing, and I was wowed. And all these years later, just something as simple as that heat embossing is still a wow to me. I just love it. So now we're going to do a different kind of embossing. I'm going to put our winter snow embossing folder in here. Now, I always like to say bumps on bottom. That's how I remember. That's because I want the raised portion of that embossing folder to be on top. So just take a little feel. One side it's going to feel more smooth. One side it's going to feel a little bit more bumpy. So I am just lining up those snowflakes with my top score mark. And then I'm going to run that through my awesome magic machine here. And then look at how pretty that is. So I've got the embossed snowflakes, and then it's nice and smooth, and then I have my embossed portion down here. I mean, you could actually add snowflakes to this portion too. I'm going to do that because I think I'd like to try that. I didn't do that on my original card. So pretty. So it looked really nice just with the embossing on the one side, but it looks really pretty on both ends of the card as well. Now I have already gone ahead and pre-cut my dove using our gold foil cardstock. And this time I'm going to use a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals behind this bird. So I'm going to add some glue here and just tuck that right on top, and then this gets put on just like so, and that is all there is to it. And I am having so much fun making these cards. So relaxing. I've been so busy this week, so to sit and make these cards has just been a delight, I must say. Alright, so I have just stamped Peace, Joy, and Love right below where I have cut out the square with my square die. And then I have a piece of my Feels Like Frost Designer Series paper, and I chose a pattern that is like the sky pattern, and this is going to go behind this piece. I have my card base, and I'm just gonna snip the ends. Do you guys use the ends of your dimensionals? I don't throw anything away. I love using the ends. So I'm just gonna put a strip here. Oops. And a strip here. I went a little dimensional happy on that, but that's okay. Now before I put this behind it, I'm going to take my dove and stamp it right onto the Designer Series paper. So I'm going to ink it with my StazOn, and I'm going to stamp it so that the wings, the tips of the wings, are just stamped off just a little bit. Just like that. Okay, now I am going to take my marker I'm just gonna grab my garden green and color in the leaves. And I'm gonna take my real red and color in that berry. My smoky slate for the beak. I love how our designer series paper does so much of the artistic work for us. It looks so pretty. So now I can peel these off, position that designer series paper behind the square die cut, and then put this onto my Whisper White card base, and then we will finish the card. Okay, so I'm going to line this up right, oops, I want that to go up a bit higher. Okay, so I'm going to push that down, and now I'm just going to put this right onto my card base. Now I have taken this die and I have cut out two of these from Garden Green cardstock. You could use shaded spruce, which is what I used on my original card. You could use whatever color you like. And I need to find my berries. I've started putting my dies in our clear envelopes, in case you've noticed that throughout the video, and then I'm just putting them right in with my sets. Just something I've just started doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut two of these out, because one of these gives you the exact amount of berries you need for one branch. So because I have two branches, I need two of those strips. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just gonna poke out these little bits that are still in the die, and then put these onto my card so that they go around the frame. And now what I'm going to do is take a glue dot, and I have already made a bow. I'm going to put that down right there in the center. And here's my bow. Now I have gone ahead and stamped the dove, and I've just added a little bit of the balmy blue. So I'm going to actually add a little bit more of that balmy blue. Bringing in my clear wink of Stella. And this really adds such a beautiful shimmer. I really don't know if you've been able to see it in all the cards I've done for you today, but it is pretty spectacular with the amount of glimmer it adds. And I'm adding some to the greenery on there too. And I'm gonna run this through the die. Just offsetting it just a tiny bit from the one behind it. Okay guys, I saved my favorite card for last, but this is definitely a stepped up card, but it's really beautiful. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is take my crumb cake card base and run it through the Winter Snow embossing folder. Now that I've run this through the embossing folder and have all my snowflakes, I'm gonna take my Whisper White craft pad, and I'm ever so lightly going to just drag it across the front. And do you see how it's picking up the snowflakes? Really, really use a soft, gentle touch going in different directions. And that's okay to get the little swipes here and there of color. That just adds to the prettiness of the card. There's my card base done. Next, I have a strip of Whisper White, and I'm going to run this through the wrapped with texture embossing folder. So it's the one with the little dots. Okay, I'm going to add some glue and stick this on the front of my card. There's a lot of bits and pieces to this card, but it's pretty easy. And I think what's made this card easy also is just having the die cuts pre-cut as I have here. And it's so pretty when it's all done. So for this card, I'm also using the beautiful bow dies, and I'm taking this image and I'm using the wood pattern from the In Good Taste Designer Series paper, and I'm gonna cut that out. And there's my die cut. And this is going to get put on the center. I want to poke out these little bits here. And I'm just going to put it on right on the center. Now I've gone ahead and I have cut out the smaller die from the beautiful bows. And I'm going to take this stamp here, put it on my block, and I'm going to take my early espresso marker and I'm just going to ink up the word Christmas. Okay, bring this in and stamp the Christmas down. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've glued on some greenery. Unfortunately, it wasn't recording and I thought it was. And I've added a pine cone. And now I'm just going to add a piece of ribbon. Now I'm adding my dove with some dimensionals. And then I'm going to take my red rhinestones and add a couple in here. These are actually the wonderful gems. And take my clear wink of Stella. I'm going to go over the entire pine cone and the dove. I knew something was different. I forgot my little baby pine cone, so I'm going to stick that on. So I'm going to move this here because we may not need that one. Little baby pine cone's going to get tucked right underneath here. Add my clear wink of Stella. And then the last part of the card is another dove. This is the bigger dove. And again, just stamped with the early espresso. And putting it on with dimensionals. And just putting him on like that. And some wink of Stella. And that card is done. And here's the original that I did, and I added some extra gold foil and I added a little extra greenery. Such a pretty card. So there you go, 10 cards with the Dove of Hope stamp set and coordinating dies. So many great ideas. I hope that you can take these ideas and make some more Christmas cards that you may need this year or for next year. And don't forget, these are great layouts to use with other stamp sets you have as well. And I hope you enjoyed a few techniques here and there. And I appreciate you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this free online class. And don't forget that the PDF tutorial with all of the measurements and photos and supply list is provided for you in the link in my description below, my gift to you. Have a wonderful day and happy stamping.